The Akashic records, they sound like some ancient scripture, don't you think? But in fact, the Akashic records are an esoteric concept that can be defined simply as the record of human souls. This is said to be a repository of all knowledge that has ever been or will be known. And more than that, it's the record of everything that has happened, is happening, or will happen in the universe. If that sounds like a lot, well, it is. But this concept might not be as far out there as you think. Here's the full story of the Akashic records. Before we get into the records themselves, let's talk about where the term comes from. In Sanskrit, Akasha means space or ether. It refers to the upper atmosphere and is considered to be the element from which all matter is formed. You see, in many spiritual traditions, there are three gunas or strings that influence our reality. These are qualities of sattva, rajas and tamas, which roughly translate to goodness, passion and darkness or delusion. In ancient texts, such as the Vedas, Akasha was seen as pure consciousness, a reality prior to these three. So the term Akashic records implies that this archive holds the purest form of truth. According to Rudolf Steiner, an Austrian philosopher and one of the central figures of anthroposophy, a spiritual science founded in the early 20th century, the Akashic records are a non-physical record created by human souls. Unlike physical records, these records are impressions left on the Akashic field by our thoughts, words, and deeds. This idea is similar to the Buddhist concept of karma, which holds that every action creates a new state of being. According to this view, the Akashic records are constantly being written and rewritten by every living being. They contain the history of each individual soul and also the history of the universe itself. Now you might be wondering why we need an Akashic record. If we have physical records and memories, well, here's the thing. Our memories are fallible. We can forget things, misremember things, or have our memories altered by trauma or illness. Physical records can be lost or destroyed by fire or flood, but the Akashic records are said to be eternal and unchanging. They are a perfect record of everything that has ever been, which is why they are sometimes called the Book of Life. So how do we access the Akashic records? According to Steiner, we can access them through meditation and clairvoyance. However, he warned that this should only be done by those who are spiritually developed enough to handle the immense power of the Akashic records. Steiner believed that the records could be accessed by anyone, but only those who are pure of heart and mind can interpret the records correctly. Otherwise, the records can drive a person insane. Some people believe that the Akashic records can be accessed through dreams. In fact, the Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the soul's journey to the Hall of Dawa, where it can review its past lives before being reborn again. This is similar to the concept of the Akashic records as a repository of all knowledge, including the knowledge of past lives. Other people believe that the Akashic records can be accessed through under hypnosis. The conscious mind is bypassed, and the subconscious mind is more open to accessing memories that are not available in everyday life. Some people have even claimed to have accessed the Akashic records while under hypnosis, and they have shared their experiences in books and articles. There are also people who believe that the Akashic records can be accessed through intuition. Intuition is a feeling or knowing without conscious reasoning, and some people believe that it is a direct connection to the Akashic records. When you trust your intuition, you are tapping into a deeper level of knowledge that is not based on logic or reason, but rather on a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. And then there are the people who claim to access the Akashic records through what is known as the Akashic. It's a tool that uses frequencies to supposedly connect to the Akashic records. It was invented by a man named Mark, who claims to have had a vision of the Akashic records while meditating in the Himalayan mountains. The device consists of two parts: a headset, and a computer. The headset contains a crystal that emits specific frequencies, and the computer is used to interpret the data. According to Mark, the frequencies emitted by the Akashic can stimulate the pineal gland in the brain, which can lead to an out-of-body experience, or OB. The consciousness is said to leave the physical body and travel to the astral plane, where it can access the Akashic records. Mark claims that many of his customers have used the Akashic to gain access to the Akashic records, and have recovered lost memories, gained insights into their past lives, and even healed their bodies. However, there is no scientific evidence to support these claims. In addition to the various methods of accessing the records, there are also various beliefs about what the records actually are. Some people believe that they are literal records, like a library or an archive, while others believe that they are more like a field of energy or consciousness. There is no one answer to this question, and different people have different beliefs. Now, you might be wondering, if the Akashic records contain all knowledge, then isn't that all knowledge in the universe? Yes, that's right. And with that comes great potential for good and evil. Let me explain. If you're a researcher trying to learn more about a certain subject, you might find that the Akashic records have the information you seek. For example, let's say you're researching the global market share for electric vehicles. You might find that the Akashic records contain information on the sales figures for all electric vehicle manufacturers worldwide. Or let's say you're a historian trying to learn more about a particular event. You might find that the Akashic records contain first-hand accounts of the event in question. Or perhaps you're a scientist trying to make a breakthrough in your field. You might find that the Akashic records contain the missing piece of information that you need to complete your research. But now, let's talk about the dark side of the Akashic records. As we mentioned earlier, the records contain all knowledge, which means they also contain all secrets. And if someone were to gain access to them, they could use that knowledge for evil. Imagine if someone could read your mind or know your darkest secrets. That would be terrifying, wouldn't it? Well, that's exactly what could happen if someone were to gain access to the Akashic records. And it's not just theoretical either. There have been cases of people using the Akashic records to harm others. In one case, a woman used the records to find the home address of her ex-boyfriend and then had his house burned down. In another case, a man used the records to find the social security numbers of people he did unlike and then stole their money. These are just two examples. There are many others. If the Akashic records are so dangerous, then why are they even real? Why didn't they just keep them hidden away somewhere? Well, there is an answer to that, but it's not one that we humans can comprehend. The fact of the matter is, the world is a dangerous place. There are people who will use any means necessary to get what they want. And if the Akashic records fell into the wrong hands, they could be used to cause great harm. But the truth is, they already have been. We live in a world where everything is interconnected. Nothing happens in isolation. Everything is linked to everything else in some way or other. And the Akashic records are the ultimate example of this interconnectedness. They contain all knowledge, all secrets, all history. They are the ultimate source of wisdom. But they are also the ultimate source of chaos. We have the ability to access the Akashic records, but we must do so with caution. If we are not careful, we could unleash forces that we cannot control. But if we approach the records with respect and reverence, they can teach us things that we never dreamed possible. The choice is ours. Will we unlock the secrets of the Akashic records and risk the consequences, or will we leave them where they have lain for centuries? Only time will tell. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up.